Hello and welcome to The Resourceful Woman. Today I am joined by my little friend Jay Catsby, who has decided that he wanted to be in the video. So he's just having a little snuggle here. He might be a little bit camera shy. This is one of the cutest things that he does, is when he buries his face in my elbow. Oh, irresistible. So anyway, what this video is actually about... goodbye, Jay Catsby. What this video is actually about is to share with you one of the gifts that I made for Christmas this year. This was a messenger bag, laptop bag that I made for one of my nieces. So shout out to Elena. Hey Elena! Yeah, this is the how-to on how I made your Christmas present. I love you so much, Peanut. I really, really miss you. And yeah, I'll get into this. This Christmas I had to be really, really careful with money and resources and all kinds of things. So I made a whole bunch of Christmas gifts out of materials that I already had. I did my best to shop as little as possible and to make as much as possible. And I tried to still make something that was thoughtful and useful for each recipient. I hope I succeeded. I don't know. But this one I had been thinking about for several months, and I'd been thinking at one point I was going to take all of my old scrap material, all just the tiny little offcut bits, and weave them into a multicolored fabric and make something out of that. Probably it was also going to be a messenger bag. And it was a very ambitious kind of idea, and I didn't quite get around to making it happen. I had so many other things to do. And then I thought, oh, well, actually, I've gone through a whole bunch of my old clothes in the last few months and found a whole bunch of jeans that sadly don't fit anymore. And rather than give them away to charity shops, which probably already have too many clothes, that I would try to turn them into something useful. So I have taken 3 pairs of old jeans to make the outsides and all of the pockets for this. And then I took this was actually some remnant fabric. There's an odd collection of fabric stores in the area where I live in Southeast England, where most of the shops are quite cheap and have a lot of fairly affordable materials, but they're not well presented, and throughout lockdown a lot of them have been closed, or they won't let you in to actually touch and feel the fabrics. I've tried buying some fabrics online, but as I mentioned before, it can be really, really hit and miss. And then there's this one shop in town that sells the most amazing fabrics. That they made all of the fabrics that I used in reupholstering my dining room. They do a lot of kind of home furnishing fabrics. And then they also sell these lovely, yummy Liberty fabrics, which are usually terribly expensive. So when I go there, I pretty much always just buy from the remnant table. You know, you get the last remnants of a bolt, you know, the last meter or two at best. And you can buy it for cheap knockoff prices. And as well, you kind of feel like you're not really, you know, cutting into anything. You're buying up something that's a cast off anyways. So, you know, you're not really contributing as much to waste and overconsumption and things like that. Anyway, that's what I tell myself anyway. So most of the time when I go to buy fabrics, I start out by looking at what I already have in my stash at home. I look for any kind of like remnants in shops, and then when I absolutely cannot find what I need or as big of a piece as I need, only then will I actually buy off of a bolt, and I try to keep it cheap. So anyway, that's the whole remnant story. What I'm actually here to talk about is this bag. So I made this bag with a removable padded laptop case, and the padding is actually an upcycle as well. This is padding left over from when I refurbished all of my dining chairs. So I saved some of that foam, knowing that it would come in handy someday. This thing is a little bit wonky, slightly, but and I don't even know what size laptop she has. So I hope this is useful. Sorry if it's not. If it's not, you could just take this out and use it for something else. I don't know. And then on the inside of the bag, there are pockets sewn in the inside lining on either side. There are a couple of pockets that I just fully cut off of a pair of jeans and reused, and a couple of pockets where I took a bit of the denim material and sewed it and made it into a pocket. So there's some like each of that. Just on the inside, under the flap, there are two good sized pockets that are just right for holding a phone. And yeah, there's a couple of pockets that are shaped for holding like pens and pencils. So I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. Until she's actually opened it and seen it and tried it out, I have no idea if it's really the right shape or the right feel. As well, my beautiful niece is left-handed, so I have tried to design it with a left-handed user in mind, like if you were to wear it on your left-hand side, or if you were to reach into a pocket with your left hand, which pocket would you want to go to first? So those are a few of the considerations that I went through as I was making this. And finally, this flap on the front, I had originally planned to kind of shape it into like a point like that. And then actually when I had it kind of all put together and it was just sort of this rough, unusual shape, I thought that was actually pretty cool, and I liked the way that it looked. So I simply stitched together the lining fabric and the denim fabric together with a blanket stitch all around the outside and just kept the shape intact. And I think it's pretty cool. I hope she thinks it's pretty cool. I love you so much, Elena. Oh my God, I miss you so much. And and finally, just also with kind of usability and wearability in mind, I took a little bit more of the foam and sewed it into the shoulder strap so that when you wear it, it can kind of be soft and padded on your shoulder. I don't know if I did a good job with that. Again, I'm kind of like, ooh. But yeah, messenger bag, homemade, here it is. I really hope you enjoy this video. To begin this project, I took some inspiration from other things that I had seen in the upcycle groups that I follow on social media. I laid out my materials to get an idea of what I had to work with. I then sketched out the pieces that I would need and figured out the dimensions that I intended to use for each piece. For projects like handbags and messenger bags, I've made a few now, and I figured out that constructing all of the insides comes first. So I started out by making the laptop casing from the lining material. It took me a minute to figure out how to sew together the padded pieces in such a way that most of the seams would be hidden. It's hard for me to describe here, so I made this diagram. Once it's all sewn together, you flip the whole thing inside out, then tuck half of it inside the other half, and voila! It's still open at the bottom, so you can stuff the padding inside and then sew it shut with another piece of padding in the bottom. It's slightly lumpy, and I had to trim the padding a couple of times to make it fit, but I think it's still functional. I added a small strip of Velcro to the bottom of the padding piece and the inside bottom of the lining to help keep the laptop pad in place when in use, but make it easily removable if it is not needed. I will admit that I struggled a bit with how best to fit in and sew the bottom padding to the rest of the padded piece. I fiddled with it quite a bit and then left it for a while whilst I worked on the rest of the bag. Just like with the craft kits, I used some pieces of heavy canvas as reinforcement to the lining to give this very thin, slippy material a little more strength and stability, particularly where it comes to supporting the denim pocket pieces. When taking apart the jeans, I prioritized the pre-existing pockets and how they would fit into the design that I had sketched out. I also wanted to coordinate the different denim colors to make it look intentional and not just thrown together. Finally, I didn't want to just cut up the garments completely, knowing that I might want to use some denim in a future project, so I was careful to just take what I needed and leave the rest. Making pockets out of pieces of fabric is pretty simple. Just measure the size, including extra for seams, cut notches in the corners to help the seams lay flat, and press down before stitching. I did the same thing for the pre-made pocket pieces to give them all clean edges when sewn down. I used a double needle to create parallel lines of stitches in all of the pocket pieces. At least I did that until my double needles broke, and I had to try to finish the stitching in parallel lines as if they hadn't broken. To make sure the outer material of the bag was wide enough, I added panels of the dark denim to both edges, using, I think it's called a lapped seam, where I press the seam allowances so that they form a kind of grip on each other. When it came to incorporating a whole rear end section, I needed to pull the fabric together and have it lay flat, so I unpicked the seam up the middle and re-sewed it down the length that I needed. I fitted all of the denim pieces together with some more lapped seams to ensure strength and durability throughout. At last, I have all of the pieces prepared, and I check to see that they fit together and look okay. Here, I'm cutting a long piece to make the shoulder strap, but it's not long enough, so I join another strip with a diagonal seam. I cut out a scrap of foam and stitch it into place before closing the entire strap. Turning that strap right side out after closing the seam was extremely difficult, probably the hardest part of this project. I closed off the side seams of the inside lining, and it was around this time that I decided I wanted to keep the outer flap rough along the edge. It actually took quite a bit more work to pull this off, but I think it looks cool and unique. I just used a blanket stitch all along the rough edge to close it off, and I think it came out quite nicely. Overall, I was very pleased with how this came out. I used only upcycled and remnant materials and made this all in a little more than a day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to hit like and subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you next time.